What's going on, everybody? It's yours truly, Mr. Marvel, here on the Horny Goat YouTube channel and the Horny Goat Podcast Network. On this installment of the Marvel Roundtable, we take a look at one of the most controversial, or at least polarizing, Marvel Studios films in recent memory. One that have a lot of fans saying this is one of the worst MCU films. But is that really the case? We're going to dive in and take a look at the origin of the Celestials, the Deviants, and of course, the Eternals, right here on the Marvel Roundtable. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Marvel Roundtable right here on the Horny Goat YouTube channel and the Horny Goat Podcast Network, where, of course, you can listen to us on all your favorite podcasting platforms. It is the Marvel Roundtable, where we go each and every single, well, not every single week, but almost every week, where we dive into each and every single show and movie in the MCU. We are deep into Phase 4 now, and we are now in the third feature-length film, one that has had a lot of polarizing opinions about it, which we'll get into as Basement so eloquently quoted at the very beginning before we hopped on here. He goes, "I have some things to say," and that's I think a very accurate way to kick things off. But of course, I'm not alone. I'm joined by the wonderful tattooed mama herself, Heather. How are you, Heather?
I'm okay.
It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be good. And everyone's favorite bear from upstairs, Canadian Basement.
Yeah, I got a story because I'm in recovery here.
You're in recovery.
For different reasons. Last night, I was like, okay, I went to go get myself a snack, and I had these two brownies left. They were in like nondescript packaging because I'd thrown out the box.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, I ate these brownies, and everything was fine. They weren't weed brownies or anything like that. They weren't weed brownies or anything like that. But today, I realized that they are like the brownies that contain a huge amount of fiber.
Oh no!
The Fiber One bars?
Oh man, and I have also eaten like a lot of vegetables and shit. My asshole is worn out, man. Like I wish I had one of those rings to sit on.
The donut?
I came here like I went to sit on my couch to be like, okay, it's time to do the Marvel Roundtable, and I had to do like the pregnant fucking sit down, where you stick your stomach out and like slowly lean down on your ass.
Yep.
Oh my god, it's finally like okay, but and then I was watching this on top of that.
So
no, don't get me wrong.
I love how this movie is going to now be associated with your fiber intake from going forward. So,
oh my god.
So if the sequel rumor is true, then there you go. There's some fiber.
I mean, it's the problem isn't like I'm not saying the movie is shit. That's not the equation I'm saying. It's the movie is fucking 17 years long, and I'm sitting the whole time on my burnt out asshole.
It's about as scorched earth. It's about as long as the. Basement's butthole pain is about as long as the Eternals been on Earth, which is I believe somewhere clocking in around 5,000 years. Which, yep,
that 1,000. I just watched it.
It's about that. Of course, we want to encourage everybody to join us live here on the channel, youtube.com/hornygoat. Let us know your thoughts about the Eternals movie, because, like I said, this is one of the most polarizing ones in recent memory, because there's been a lot of split decisions, but this one more split reactions to this film. But the big one, usually a lot of people lean towards. There we go. There's Trex burp. The negative. On this one, saying it's not that great, which we'll get into, and I can, without getting too much into it, I can see why. I can, to some extent, see why people don't like this.
I see both sides of that coin, to be honest. There's good and there's bad, and there's a hell of a lot of it.
from the view of your bathroom?
Yeah. Oh man, I think this broke my TV too, because my TV just won't start. turn on anymore. It's been a bad situation, all in all.
Things aren't looking good, Captain. The Real Cody, Alpha, and Federico, thank you guys for joining us in the chat. Always appreciated. Again, subscribe, like, comment, all that fun stuff, and give us those awesome ratings on your favorite podcasting platform like Spotify and Apple Music and everywhere else you guys can listen to us from. So, kick things off right off the bat. It's the same old, without going into too much details. Heather, Basement, your overall thoughts without getting too specific into Eternals.
I actually enjoyed this movie because it reminded me more of kind of the X-Men in a sense. So it's like, okay, you're getting more of that old school feel, but there's more behind the explanation rather than just a mutation in the DNA. So I liked it for that reason. Yes, I have my gripes with certain parts of the movie, but
overall, a pleasant experience.
Did OBS disconnect on you?
Okay.
I don't know why. That was weird. Sorry, folks. Basement, one more time.
Should have been a TV series on Disney Plus, not a movie. And I think the runtime of the movie kind of proves that point.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Towards the end, I actually was thinking the same thing. I can't remember what movie which one we said it on. Where we're like, oh, this would have been a better.
I'm not talking the way that Disney does their TV series half the time, where it's just like the movie cut into small segments. I'm talking like a properly structured 10-episode television series to give each of the characters enough time to grow. Because there's no attachment throughout this movie for me for the characters. They have all these emotional moments that they're supposed to be emotional that mean literally nothing to me.
Well, when I heard the announcement about this, I was like, "Oh, okay." So the way I figured is that they're implementing they're trying to establish more lore and world building, and like the history of how everything came to be, which all fine and good. But the idea of introducing 10 new characters in one movie is like, okay.
Make the Avengers. Look what happened with Justice League. And those are well-known characters.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is the struggle. I'd also say, like, right off the bat, I seen the director that made this movie. She won an award for her previous movie. I did see it. Nomadland, I think it is.
Yep.
About some woman living in her van. You can well, that's essentially what the movie's about.
No, I know. It just
you can see, like, this movie looks sometimes a lot like that in terms of how it's shot and stuff. I don't know. It's such a weird pick to direct this movie. Like, this movie, like, you could see her direction style in it, and that's what kind of makes it feel different, which is both good and at times bad. But it's like, at least I'll say that you can tell it's an MCU movie, but it's not like the other MCU movies. It
is not.
Really takes its time. It's not action heavy. It's lore heavy. I wish they spent more time developing characters, but I also didn't want the movie to be 1 second longer than it is.
Well, I think I'm going to say this because first off, I watched this movie on a really rocky fucking plane ride. I mean, we hit turbulence, and I thought we were all going to fucking die.
So did Basement.
Because I literally was sitting next to the person, and I grabbed her fucking arm, and she's like, I'm sorry, I don't like flying. But
yeah, just like Basement.
If you look, I don't think not all of the characters needed to be developed, because I don't think they're going to do anything with some of them.
I agree.
The ones that they do develop, the Chinese, the Japanese girl,
Cersei and fucking Icarus.
The guy in the middle here, he's dead.
Right.
Spoilers.
You never say never.
Well, you know what I mean.
That's true. Yeah, no shit.
But for all intents and purposes, yes.
I was sleeping on the sun.
The Indian guy. He's another one that they kind of did a character development with him, but they're probably going to do more with him.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. I think they didn't need to develop all the characters. Some of the characters that they did develop, unfortunately, did not work for me. Like, the main woman, Cersei, didn't really care for. Icarus, the character was interesting-ish, but didn't really care that much for him either.
Well, they're going to do
Some
more
of the side
with
characters
her,
are better.
though. Your Cersei is the one in the
I don't know if
green.
I want to see more with her. That's the thing.
Well, they're going to do more with her because I like this movie. I enjoyed it.
I didn't like it, but I didn't hate it. It's there in the middle somewhere. There's some things that are great about it and some things that aren't, but we'll obviously end up talking about them.
I think the Eternals is you're gonna it's stemming to who's gonna be the main bad guy in the
it's too much of a promotional material for future product than it is a standalone film good enough on its own.
But it's not.
That's just the way I look at it.
I don't think it is a standalone movie. I really don't.
It won't be. But I'm saying like it still needs to be in some sense.
So this is one of those there's a couple of projects that we will, and this is one of them, that we'll get into in the MCU that doesn't feel like it's really tied to the MCU, and this is one of them. Moon Knight is also going to be like that too, where there's little references to the bigger scope of things, or the bigger picture of what's going on, or they'll mention it, but there won't be any like main canonical tie-in. Like right now, aside from the end credit scene, there's really no direct connection to anything going on in the larger MCU, like the bigger scope of things, which in some cases I argue makes it more intriguing to me. in some cases, not always.
I think, and you made a mention of it, this is the kind of the problem that I have with the MCU, is these movies happen for the end credit scenes. Like everybody wants to know what happens at the end credit scenes, see what's next. It's like, or what's going to happen. It's like, if that's why you're going to the movie, then wait for it to come out in Disney Plus instead of going to the damn movie. I understand why you're going to the movie, but if you're just going to see what the next big thing is, then just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. And you're missing the point of the movies.
Oh, go ahead, Bateman.
I think those end credit scenes should be like the cherry on the top. And as time has gone on, they've become the cherry has become bigger and bigger, and the cupcake has become smaller and smaller. And it's an unfortunate problem that we're like facing in this movie. I do think when we talked about the end credits scene, there's value in them, but it like you said, at times it kind of overshadows the movie if the movie isn't like very, very good or good.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this roundtable, is because the MCU has obviously blown up to this big, gigantic, like monstrosity of cinema that is unlike anything else, with some exceptions doing it on a somewhat smaller scale. But there's really anything else like this in modern movies, and so, obviously there's going to be dips. There's going to be some that are going to be better than others. But that's why I wanted to analyze these things individually. Like, how do they stand on their own without having necessarily to tie in, or, does it rely, or does it have to rely on X, Y, and Z, or does it not? And so that's kind of the whole reason I wanted to do this. And to be honest with you, this movie was kind of the inspiration for the idea behind it. Because
my favorite character out of all 10 of these people, I think it is. Yes, is the Japanese dude.
Braun, I think.
So fucking funny. He
Gilgamesh.
He had to be.
Yeah, Gilgamesh.
The guy that was
the other movie I saw.
Of what's her nuts?
Angelina Jolie.
I had to take a bunch. I had to take a bunch of notes for this.
Athena.
Athena. Yeah.
He was the protector of her because he's the only one that could bring her back to reality.
Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, I'm sorry.
He was my favorite character. I'm going to say it because I'm not going to be here all night. Spoilers. He dies. I don't think he should have. But I understand why they did what they did. It was because he was her
center.
I would rather have seen her die.
This, when I seen the trailers for this, real quick, and then I'll shut up. I thought for sure Angelina Jolie was going to be the center of attention in this movie, and I thought they did a really good job of not doing that.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. I was actually thinking the exact same thing. That they would make her, that she would be the mega star, and was not the case, which I'm very happy about.
It's just another character in the movie, which I enjoyed. And that's what all I really want to see. I don't want to see her become the center of attention for everything. I mean, she was part of the reason why things happened, but it happened. I mean, they didn't make her, once they figured out how to fix it, then she just became another, just like, side character, which I'm okay with.
This is why I think, like, I'm in agreement with most of what you're saying. It's just I do feel, and well, I'm just gonna add to it. I feel like she should have been the one that they killed, because it would even make, I think it makes more sense within the story, since she was the one that was kind of like possessed or whatever, like what's going on. Like her ideals aligned more with the Deviants than killing off him. I think it's only because he's like, the actor is just like lovable screen presence. He's got a lovable screen presence that they're like, oh, people are going to be more emotionally hit by his death. But it's also, I would also be much more invested in the movie what's going to follow if I had a character that that stayed with it. Because I don't really care about Angelina Jolie's character at all.
They tried to make the little girl the emotional center, but it didn't work.
Oh my God, that's one of my biggest gripes with this movie. I think she has a very interesting story to tell that doesn't really get told. It doesn't really get shown. It just gets told to us very quickly. Yeah. And that's it. I'm like,
well, I kind of seen it coming just by the way her attitude was. Every time she was around the girl in the green, it just one of those things.
So it's I don't know, man.
I get it. I mean, I agree with you. They didn't really allude to it. And if you weren't paying attention, then you wouldn't get it until something was said. But
the problem is
Go ahead.
The movie doesn't do, in my opinion, this movie doesn't do a great job at holding attention for its enormous runtime.
There are scenes where I just kind of sat there at my phone.
Like it's very poorly paced.
Yeah, I mean,
man, I was fucking worried. I had to take a break an hour into this movie, and then I realized it was an hour into this movie.
I'm not gonna say you're wrong. I mean, I get it, but it held my attention long enough for me to not worry about how long the movie was.
I got quite bored watching it, I'll say.
There were times where it did have that, okay, what the fuck are they doing here?
A lot of things didn't make sense in this movie as well. Oh, sorry, Connor. My one point that I wanted to make in regards to what you were saying with it not feeling like an MCU movie, and not having like the Avengers and stuff like that. You can do that if the movie is small scale.
Oh,
this movie is massive scale, and at some point in time, should have had somebody from the MCU show up when the fucking god is coming out of the ocean.
So the one there's two things I'll note to that, and the first is something I actually will defend the movie on. I'm not saying it does it perfectly, but at least it tries. And then the other like issue that I had with it, which is something we've beaten into the ground, and it was something I knew was going to be a problem when they announced this movie, was the characters. And yeah, you're introducing 10 new characters that have been around for fucking ever, apparently, and interweaving and kind of developing their stories. Not everyone's going to get the same screen time. I don't know if you guys, I mean, I've watched it after its high point, but Power Rangers, that reminds me a lot of it, where like
I wrote that down. This reminds me of Power, not only because they all had colors and talked to a fucking gigantic robot.
But the idea that like some characters obviously had a lot more deeper, exploration of who they are and deeper background versus others, which I knew that was going to happen both when the movie was fucking announced. Like when they're like, "Oh, here are our 10 Eternals." I'm like, "Well, okay, who's going to the back of the line? Who's going to the back of the chorus line here?" It's Angelina Jolie. But the one thing that I do give the movie credit for, and I'm not saying it does it perfectly, but they do really fucking try to like navigate through the timeline and make sure that everything can happen within when they said it was like, well, why didn't you fucking stop Thanos?
Yeah, that was one of my issues.
And
I'm like,
sort of tackled it.
So you're sitting here talking about Thanos. How come you didn't get involved? And then they explain why later in the movie. Well, that makes no fucking sense.
It doesn't make any sense. They're like, we don't get involved because we're not supposed to get involved in man. And then throughout the entire movie, they show how they get involved with man.
Every turn.
And it's like even the smallest fucking thing. Oh, there's a rock gonna fall on a girl.
He wasn't a deviant.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
What?
It was an earthquake. We didn't know that was a deviant.
The rule was that the Eternals would only interfere in anything that had to be caused by a deviant. And so that's why they didn't interfere with Thanos, because Thanos was not a deviant, even though that's...
But it wasn't explained.
But it doesn't, like, it literally makes no sense for the plot. Their whole idea is to have enough intelligent beings on planet Earth to power this thing. This guy's, I'm going to kill half the intelligent beings. Maybe that's a bit more dangerous than random dogs killing people.
To also
completely goes against the narrative.
Dogs. The other thing too is, and this is just a side note here. I mean, if you really think about it though, too, how long was Thanos on Earth for?
About an hour.
Yeah, it wasn't there for very long. But that also didn't help in like any of the. I guess they never knew that they were trying to turn back time or fucking go through time. And
I mean, unless some of them got blipped.
They seem too
about it. They couldn't get involved in it.
They seem too like big of a part of the history and the lore that they're building around the entirety of the MCU to leave them out of like hugely significant events that happen, especially the Thanos thing.
But I can understand what it was explained. They weren't supposed to, because essentially they needed. And yes, Thanos snapped his fingers, but then they brought them back, which then in turn
balanced out their powers.
And then this god thing said, all right, there's enough human intelligence on here where we can create another god, which is Earth was essentially an egg.
Wouldn't you think that Celestials would know of Thanos' plan and like it completely counteracts their plan? And is way more of a problem than Deviants.
Well, you think Celestials then? But here you can argue that Celestials then know that they're going to bring them back, so it's not anything.
Are they that way?
Or
we don't know.
See, this is the type of shit that keeps me up at night, and you wonder why. Like sometimes I see something like, "There's no Pepe Sylvia." You could argue that the Celestials knew that with half of the creations being wiped out, it not only wiped out Eternals, it also wiped out Deviants as well. So maybe it still technically was balanced out.
Wouldn't it also wipe out them?
Well, you know what's funny? It's never alluded that the blip affects gods.
It's at all life in the universe. So I'm assuming.
Yep. But it's never.
I don't know. It's there's like for me it's a huge like.
Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
No, to me it's like someone like just came in and like slapped some Flex Seal on the plot. So, let's move on. We don't talk about
this
that.
movie in half.
I mean,
it's only about Deviants when it has to be about Deviants.
Explains the length of the movie. They just slapped two movies together and they sawed it in half and flex taped it together. But let's talk about a couple of the quick behind the scenes stuff as far as the pre-production, because God knows we'll be here speculating about shit for as long as the movie exists. So Chloe Zhao is the director of the Eternals, who I might be saying her last name wrong, or Chow Zhao. directed this movie, who had also apparently been in running to direct the Black Widow movie as well. She approached Marvel Studios about making a film that she had been a fan of the MCU. She wanted to work with the studio to bring her own take and world build to the franchise and impress them with a presentation that Kevin Feige described as fascinating with reams of visuals, which I'm not sure what sort of reams we're getting here. She actually opted in to pick Eternals herself, even though Black Widow was her primary choice. Of course, she cited the TV series Ancient Aliens and Final Fantasy video game series, the concepts the concept of Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, and the films of Terrence Malick as inspirations for the film. Marvel considered Eternals to be a perfect transition into its next phase of films, along with projects such as Captain Marvel, allowing the studio to cast a diverse group of actors to portray various Eternals. Moore's initial planning documents for the project, including the swapping of genders, sexualities, and ethnicities in some characters from the comic books, with Zhao further advocating for this approach. Basically, it just keeps kind of going on and on. The fact that this was going to be a big kind of experimentation for Marvel, because not only in terms of what I just mentioned before, but also because, no one's ever done an Eternals movie before, and no one's really gotten to, dive deep in this. Plus, Feige was trying to figure out the place in terms of where the Eternals would land in the greater spectrum of the MCU. So, I mean, this is a crazy movie, and I have a lot of notes here, so bear with me, folks, because there's 10 characters we have to keep track of here. Jesus Christ!
I will say, before we start about the entire movie, I don't know if it's just me, but did you guys feel like there's the action is so far removed from the rest of the movie in terms of it doesn't feel like it fits the movie? At times the movie, when they give it time to go and grow to be what it is, it's not bad. But then an action scene comes in, and the action scenes are so bland. They're so boring, man. The action is over the top boring for me in this movie, where I actually like more so the character building moments and introduction to the characters. I think the director excels there and disappears in the action.
There is one action, it's not even a scene, it's a character that I think they did very, very, very well, which was Makari, the speedster.
Yeah, I'll give them that. They did the scene where she's fighting Icarus, right?
Yeah, well, in general, because we haven't obviously DC has the Flash, and people complain about how they made him look both on TV and Ezra Miller in Hawaii. But in the MCU, we've only had one speedster so far who's dead twice, and that was Quicksilver. So for me, it was kind of nice. I mean, that was probably one of the best big screen speed power adaptations I've seen in a while. But yeah, other than that, I'm with you. The fight scenes are kind of,
Some of them were, not all of them for me.
I think it has to do with
it was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
What they were fighting. I did not care at all for the Deviants. I didn't care for the look. I didn't care for the actions. It seems like a scene I've seen a million times out before. When they fought each other, it was a bit more interesting.
It reminded me of the Hounds from Ghostbusters.
It reminded me of the Hounds from Hellboy.
There's them.
Remind me of the Hounds from Simpsons. Release the Hounds.
You know what it reminded me of? The things, the dog-like things that in Endgame.
Oh yeah, the Chitauri-esque, whatever the fuck those things were. Which never bit anybody.
Fodder. They're just fodder enemies.
Oh yeah.
The Deviants are the one deviant. Well, he ends up. I thought he would be the bad guy, but it became.
He just became irrelevant real fast for some reason. They dropped the ball with him, but whatever.
But that being said, let's break down Eternals. Now, I'm going to do this a little bit out of order, so just bear with me on this one, or not out of order, but...
Good show.
All right. And JP's out. Thanks, JP. So, in the movie, we obviously get a modern-day idea of what's going on with the Eternals with occasional flashbacks back and forth. So, for the sake of this review and the synopsis... Fuck it. We're going to go in the order in which the synopsis I have here, because I have notes on the names. That's about... Because
Jumps around a lot and not to its betterment.
No. Like Shang-Chi, like we said before, Shang-Chi was perfect with those flashback scenes.
And knew where to put it. This is like...
Doesn't know where to put it.
I don't know where the fuck I am half the time.
So me Saturday. In 5000 BC, a group of 10 immortal individuals descend upon Earth to protect humanity from the Deviants. They are the Eternals, who have been sent from their home planet of Olympia, if that's not a little bit on the fucking nose, on the Domo by the Prime Celestial Arishem the Judge. Throughout the centuries, the Eternals continue to relocate to other growing civilizations and defend them from the Deviants, although they are barred by Arishem from interfering with human conflicts to allow them to evolve naturally. Two Eternals, Circe and Icarus, would develop a close relationship over the centuries, eventually becoming a married couple. In 1521, the Spanish invasion on the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. Runs concurrently with an attack from the last of the Deviants. While fighting them off, Thea's Mod Weri, I just read that, causes her to momentarily turn on her allies, only to be stopped by Gilgamesh. The Prime Eternal Ajax offers to cure Athena of her affliction at the cost of her memories, but Gilgamesh volunteers to look over her, conceding with the possibility she may have to be killed if she turns again. Druig, frustrated with how the Eternals have been abstaining from human affairs, deserts them to end the Spanish conflict himself. With the Deviants seemingly eradicated, Ajax releases the Eternals to go their own ways, and in the years since, Icarus would abandon Circe as the other Eternals await their return to Olympia. So, we basically just set the entire stage of the whole fucking movie up until present day, so there's a lot to break down. So, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of the whole... I'm not going to disagree with the eyebrow raising of they can't interfere in human affairs and then interfere in human affairs. So, yeah.
Especially...
Yeah. But... The bigger thing, I think, for me is the concept of the Celestials, which this is not the first time we've seen the Celestials. This is just the first time they've been named. So we've seen a little couple of glimpses or heard presence of Celestials. We know that the planet that the Collector was in the head of a severed Celestial. We know that Ego, the living planet, good old Star-Lord's dad, was a Celestial. We've also seen a Celestial. If you go back to the Collector scene where he's introducing the Power Stones, that giant thing that was hitting the staff down and killed everybody, that was also a Celestial. And it's not to be the last time we see Celestials. We'll see Celestials at least one more time towards the end of Phase 4 when we get to a good old Thor, Love and Thunder. But Celestials are basically super gods. Because that's what fucking MCU needs right about now. Super gods.
As we're dealing with Thanos, yeah.
I like the design of this specific Celestial. It's pretty simple. Like with the big red eyes, 6 eyes, or whatever the fuck he had. He looked like a big red brick.
He looked like a walking Lego thing. So, I mean, it's an interesting idea that they're bringing I think we talked about this before, Basement, where it's like they laid out all the movies and the shows for this year, or for 2021. It's like nothing looks like it's going to connect to absolutely anything whatsoever. Everything looks like it's fucking off in its own little thing. And this is certainly another one of them. And so, I mean, knowing now what we know now as far as the direction of where the MCU is going to go, I think the Celestials are going to play an extremely important part going forward. But, I mean, what do you think about the introductions of the Eternals, Deviants? I mean, aside from the interfering with humans bullshit, seems pretty clear-cut to me.
The one thing that, I'd say, like, the whole idea of it is fine. It's pretty, like, the idea is clear-cut because it's simple enough. Where I kind of got tripped up at the beginning of this movie and halfway through this movie and almost at the end of this movie was the sheer amount of fucking names and like things you have to keep track of. Yep. This is why I say it, and again, it would lend itself better to a TV show where you're not juggling every single one of these all at once. So like, and you remember Ajax or Jack or whatever. Like, who the fuck is that?
You remember this? No, I don't. No, I don't.
Don't know who you're talking about.
No. Bob or Frank or Jim or Fred?
And this moment where they like set the groundwork of the past, especially for the two leads, which I find to be the least interesting of all of them, that we get the most screen time of. And they give us the most screen time because they want to establish this relationship that is going to be this big crescendo at the end. Don't buy it. Don't see the on-screen chemistry between the two leads at all. Don't see, like, one is just a stiff board, the other one's a stiff board that's a woman. Neither of them have that going for me.
I didn't feel any. I mean, I don't know if you want to chalk that up to the bad acting, the bad writing, or the fact that you wanted him to come off that way. But like, yeah, I was not.
I'm gonna give it a bit.
I'm sorry I left you I'm sorry I left you stand. I'm sorry I fucking ghosted you 2,000 years ago. My bad. There was this guy named Christ that everybody was talking about, so I had to go check it out.
I'd also say like, it's okay. They're inherently not bad actors or anything, so it's I don't like, just some people have on-screen chemistry and some people don't, and they don't. I mean, she has way better chemistry with Jon Snow.
She does.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he's in the movie for 10 seconds.
But Heather, what did you think about the setup with the Eternals, the Celestials, and the Deviants?
I felt it was kind of. It was good up until they got to the point of them. No, don't do that. We cannot interfere with their lives. But yet you built this city for them. What the fuck are you doing with that?
Which I do like the fact that they actually had a character who's like, you guys are fucking stupid. Why are we not like helping these people?
Yeah.
This is what frustrates me. Every second they get, they turn and see, like, the guy that like takes people over or whatever. Every second he's like, I'm gonna do this. She said not to interfere. I'm gonna do it anyway. So you think like, what, they just stopped doing that when Thanos showed up?
Yes.
Like the movie doesn't lend itself to that idea at all. It worked. Again, the movie existing in a current universe hurts the movie trying to fit its broken pieces together.
I appreciate the attempt, because again, it's an uphill battle just from the get-go before you even like tell me anything.
Making the movie is an uphill battle. Then fitting it into a current universe is an uphill battle.
Yeah, I'm
trying to make a cohesive storyline with that many characters and that many moving parts.
So I mean,
we all know. Basement and I know, and anybody who's watched Game of Thrones, we all know that Icarus, who played Robb Stark in Game of Thrones, is a damn good actor.
Mm-hmm.
They're all good actors and actresses. It's just they don't have the time to. You need time.
Not even just the time. I think it's also the writing for it. It's like the writing itself feels rushed.
Well, they want them to be like otherworldly, but they also want their problems to be very grounded in human emotion. How are you going to pull that character off?
Not to mention the fact
without
that
time to do it. Like, you got to do all that in 20 minutes of screen time for each character. Good luck.
The only ones that show any kind of human emotion are Angelina Jolie, Garish, and the Indian guy.
Who's don't worry about remembering the names. I have to fucking keep referencing them. So
you can just call them the most identifiable thing about them, and we'll understand who you're talking about.
So Kingo is Kumail Nanjiani. Yep, who is the Bollywood star. So we might as well get this out of the way now and just kind of talk about the characters themselves, just to make this a little bit easier for reference, although we're still going to fucking have to reference them. So Cersei is Gemma Chan, who is one of the main focal point, if not the main focal character. She has
green. She's one in the green on the background picture there. Make this really easy for people.
Oh yeah,
and she is boring as shit.
She is a cardboard box.
She has the ability to transform objects into materials into other materials, mostly flowers and butterflies. Icarus.
I thought it was like rock into water, but she doesn't understand her abilities at all or something. Like, I'm so confused about her.
She only had 5,000 years to get it right, so fucking.
I know. Fuck this. 7,000 actually by the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, 7. Of course, we have Richard Madden playing Icarus, who of course has the ability to fly and shoots beams of light from his eyes. That's not a fucking Superman knockoff. I don't know what it is.
He's definitely a knockoff. He's dollar store Superman.
He's Homelander from Wish. Kingo, played by Kumail Nanjiani, is, of course, making a living as a Bollywood star. He does have these weird abilities to, like, shoot energy projectiles.
He's got gun hands.
He's got gun hands. Sure.
For some reason.
Sure.
A lot of people had gun hands in this for some reason.
Whatever. Sprite, played by Leah McHugh, is the youngest, yet even though she's like thousands of years old, I believe she has the ability to...
She's like an illusionist.
Yeah, she has the ability like to transform or to create illusions of to create optical illusions.
I think she can also create like real objects, because at one point in time she does in this movie. I was confused about her power once I saw that, because she creates like wood that's real.
Oh yeah.
She in like a cabin at some point. And I was like, what the fuck? I thought you created. Yeah, whatever.
We have Fastos, who is the brilliant inventor with a mind for creating weapons and technology. So he's kind of like the engineer and the mechanic in some cases. Makari is the super fast Eternal, who is also deaf, which I thought was an interesting little something different, something unique.
It works with her character. It also actually works with her power. It works with her. Okay, a lot of
we're not going to be affected by the sound barrier breaking.
I gotta say, like, a lot of the promotional material for this movie was like diversity, yeah, but they didn't need to do that, because the movie doesn't, like, it's a diverse movie, sure, but I don't feel at any point in time like they're beating me over the head with
yes,
you gotta love this, you gotta love. It's done a lot more organically and done a little bit more respectfully, like it should be in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's times where it's like you can pinpoint out them checking some boxes, but it's not in any way it's not hurting the movie or making me feel like I'm being used by watching it or trying to push an agenda on me. It's just that's the way the character is.
Yep.
And it works for her. She's a perfect point. She's deaf, but because she's deaf and because of her abilities, she basically it works with it. I can hear the vibrations in your fucking voice, so I can hear what you're saying, even if I'm not looking at you or whatever. So it was kind of...
It ties in well. It ties in well. No, I thought it was very clever. Druig is known for the ability to manipulate others' thoughts, so basically mind control. Gilgamesh, of course, is... I'm trying to remember what his exact power was. Oh, he has the super fists.
He's just really strong. He's strong, man.
Super fisting. Of course, Selma Hayek coming in as Ajak, who is at the very beginning anyway, the leader of the Eternals. Trying to remember her. Oh yeah, her ability to heal. That's right. And then finally, Thena, played by Angelina Jolie, is basically she's the warrior. Yeah, she's like Xena, warrior princess. She has the ability to create like an energy sword and is probably one of the best. Fighters out of all the Eternals. So kind of going back to what Heather said as far as like the idea of like this is kind of like X-Men. It kind of is. It's kind of like MCU's like beta testing for the X-Men, where you have these diverse characters
of the X-Men.
The characters are the most disappointing and best part of this movie. I hate it because I actually really I thought the character Druid or whatever his name is, the guy that could like take over people.
Yeah,
man, if you explore that ability and that character, it could get very interesting morally.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the inventor guy, and they gloss over something that's so interesting to me of him being like helping establish or build the nuclear bomb and feeling like
oh my god, yes,
guilty for doing it. But they just fucking snap their fingers and gone and done and done. It's like all these things that you
of the movie.
Yeah, that's the problem with the movie. Great ideas, never realized.
I do remember that scene. Thank you for reminding me about that. That was a good point.
That was great. And even the warrior, she's like battling with, I don't know if it's like she's like mentally fucked up or something. Like something's going on with her where she's like can't do. She gets taken over by her thoughts or something. I couldn't really place.
How they explain it in the movie, and the reason why they wanted to erase her memory was because she had too many memories, and that was causing her, spoiler alert, her malfunction.
Is it like a PTSD type deal because she's like frontline fighter?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, some of and they focus on Cersei, who literally has no problems, and Icarus, who's just a fucking blank asshole.
See, they focused on the two people that married each other, consentingly married each other, but didn't want to marry each other.
Stupid.
The least interesting of the characters, even Sprite, I thought had a really interesting story too. Immortal, can never grow up, so your mind ages, but your body doesn't, and then you're like in that weird position of, like she said, I want to have a family, I want to have kids, I want to do this, and I'm forever 12. So it's pretty fucked up. I mean, they tackled that in the show Invincible too, kind of, where it's like, I never get older, so I can be a kid forever, and I can't experience any form of life. So like her motivations made sense, but it's literally like 2 seconds of a scene.
The more I think about it, you are absolutely right that this should have been a Disney Plus show.
This is what I'm saying. Each character, most of the characters are very intriguing, and they do not have enough time. And then you have Gilgamesh. He basically is in love with Angelina Jolie. They never say it, but he leaves everything. Like, this is much more telling. That, to me, was way more telling than what they did with Sprite and Rob Stark. Because he's like, I had to have Kamal Najahani, or whatever his name is. I had to have him tell me that they were she was in love with him to get it. Where in the other way, I knew 100%. He fucking just sacrificed everything to help her.
Yeah.
Like for every great thing they do in this movie, they do the opposite.
But yeah, Eternal Wong over there was definitely one of my favorites. I thought it was Benedict Wong.
Have you seen?
It comes down to the character development and the breakdown of the characters in and of itself with their own singular personality. His was the best, in my opinion.
I like his was the simplest and easiest to do in the time frame, which I think is why it comes off as the best. The other one was really intricate, and you can only really show bullet points of their intricacy, which sucks. But I'm in agreement with you. Have you seen Train to Busan? Because he's in that and plays pretty much the same character.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so he's the best part of that movie too, by the way.
Now the breakup of them basically comes at the idea of, hey, we're all in disagreement about our purpose. And part of it is fueled by, the human interference. Part of it is influenced by, like, we haven't heard shit from Arishem, so we don't know when or if we're coming back. I'm kind of torn about that idea of them like, all right, we're out of here, peace. But I mean, if the Deviants died down, it's like, what else are they gonna fucking, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of.
Salma Hayek kind of explained it the best at that point. She said, "Go flourish and create life elsewhere, and help bring this world up to where it should be."
Yeah.
I would have preferred if this movie kind of focused more on. I mean, you're on Earth for 7,000 years at the end. The fight with your point of existence and what you're doing, because I mean, most people question things within their measly 60 to 100 years. Come on, you telling me they wouldn't like strive to find? It kind of pissed me off at the end when Icarus was like, okay, I'm gonna fly into the sun. You mean you could just leave Earth at any point in time and go somewhere else, and you couldn't like try to find whatever answers to what's ailing you, or just fucking sit around for 2,000 years and sulk?
To be fair, though, I think they alluded to the idea that they didn't know any better. I mean, yeah, they could have left at any point in time, but as far as like, it's kind of.
Are they not like emotionally and mentally in some way growing? How do they stop that? How do they stop experience from happening? That would have been a much more intriguing arc for a lot of the characters.
We'll get there,
which
but
they do get. They do get to a point.
No, they do now. What I'm saying is they answer that question a little bit later on, but we'll get there. But we are fast forward to the present day, where Sprite lives with Cersei in London. She works as a museum curator with a romantic interest in her colleague Dane Whitman. One night, Cersei, Sprite, and Whitman are leaving a party when they are attacked by a deviant. They are joined by Icarus as the fight to eradicate the beast, but they discover that it is able to heal itself. As Whitman is left behind, Cersei, Sprite, and Icarus decide to leave for South Dakota in search of Ajax. At her house, they find her body instead, a victim of an earlier deviant attack. As Cersei mourns over the cadaver of their leader, Ajax passes the sphere she uses to communicate with Arishem to her. With the deviant threat looming, the three decide to venture out to find the other Eternals. So to me, again, despite the whole, like, we won't interfere with humans, pretty easy to follow the story so far.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he was the bad guy right away, though. It's just like the stoic sternness of his character was kind of like, it's you're setting up for, and he's like, oh, I just happened to show up.
Yep.
In this moment,
what's his Ajax blood on my hands anyway?
Also, he's so much. They're alluding to him being so much more powerful than all the rest of them. So it's like, okay.
But,
and at the end, didn't they also basically reveal that he knew the final plan because of the fact that Ajax is guard?
I have to ask the question: why the fuck did they tell tell any of them the final plan?
I don't know.
And when she gets the leadership role, they take her to tell her the final plan. It's like, what's the point of doing this?
So unless there was a mission or something that was pivotal for them to be there, or pivotal for them to know it for X, Y, and Z reasons, I get, like, if anything, I get why Ajax would know, because Ajax was the leader. She would bear the responsibility
every day.
So when Icarus finds out about this, as we'll get into later on, it makes sense that when she's like, no, we need to deviate away from it, he's like, nope, sorry, I'm going to listen to our boss. And, you know, like, that makes sense to me. Why would you
even tell her? Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, for their plan, it makes literally no sense for them to tell them, this is the secret twist.
I mean, what's her name? Cersei eventually finds out.
They tell her.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But why?
They don't tell her, though. He
100% tells her.
Tell her, though, until it's almost imminent that the other Titan is being born.
Fuck it, who cares?
Well, that's also like as soon as she, like, inherits the ability to be leader. I don't know why they're telling the leader at all anyway.
Unless there's something
seemingly
presence down on the surface to handle giving out the orders.
Because how the fuck are they gonna know what to do?
Kill deviants.
Besides that,
that seems like the only fucking order.
No, I know, but I'm just saying is that they have to communicate something to. I don't know. Anyway, they approach Kingo as he shoots his new Bollywood film, who was of course hesitant to leave his life of stardom and rejoin the Eternals. He gives in when he learns about Ajax, alongside additional encouragement from his valet Karun Patel, one of the best characters in the entire fucking movie, who also tags alongside them to film a documentary for Kingo. The group locates Gilgamesh and Thena in Australia as the latter's Weary resurfaces due to a recent deviant attack. After examining Thena's artwork she had painted during her episodes of Weary, that's the PTS, I think. Yeah. Which visualized memories of planetary destructions in the past, Cersei uses the sphere she successfully established a connection to Arishem. The Prime Celestial reveals to Cersei that Olympia does not actually exist. Instead, he had engineered the Eternals in the World Forge. He had also created the Deviants to eradicate Earth's apex predators and allow intelligent life to thrive, but a critical design flaw led them to evolve and become predators themselves. So, let's back up here and take this in. We've got Kingo.
The most hated part of the movie. It makes no sense.
What? Which part?
He just. It's like the here. Let me tell you my evil master plan.
Well, he hasn't told him the entire evil master plan yet.
He told him like enough for anybody to be like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." You've enslaved me, taken my memories, and threw me on this planet, and now you're about to kill me and everybody here, or like turn me back into a blank slate and kill everybody here. That's like, how else are you gonna take that? Oh, cool.
Well, let me get
promotion.
Let me get through.
Can't wait to forget everything.
Let me get through this paragraph then, and we'll keep talking about this real fast. So the Eternals were deployed onto Earth to protect the humans, unaware that they were also defending a seed that would spawn the new celestial Taimut, the communicator, once the population quota of intelligent life was achieved. When that happens, the emergence would commence, resulting in the destruction of the planet and the birth of the said celestial, which would allow for new life and galaxies to form. Afterwards, the memories of the Eternals would be taken from them and studied by Arishem to make way for their next planetary mission. Appalled with the true meaning of their existence, Cersei informs the others. Together they realize that Thena's mental affliction was the result of a botched memory wipe after previous emergence.
Which is essentially her malfunction, since she is essentially a cyborg.
Yeah, for lack of a better explanation, yeah.
Also, just going to gloss over the fact that this eternal being was basically Tony Stark, who created Ultron.
Yep.
With creating the Deviants.
Holy shit, yeah, yep.
I mean, I was watching this, right? Now, like, at first, I had no idea about the Eternals. Nothing, comic-wise or anything. And I see this fucking big, red, fucking multi-eyed monstrosity, and I'm like, man, that looks like Ultron from What If?
But worse.
Yeah.
Much worse. And let me tell you right now, there are some Celestials in the comics that they are fucking terrifying. Terrifying.
Like, I don't know, I was gonna say Galactus, but like there's one that's like
Galactus is a Celestial.
Okay, so then I am right. And he's not a big cloud, he's that big guy.
Or he might be a very, you know what? Now I have to look. I believe
There's one that I can think of that I'm seeing in my mind from a comic book, who is like massive, like this one. But it looked like, maybe I can't exactly the color of the helmet, but it looked like kind of looked like it reminded me of the remember those fucking big robots they had in X-Men. What were they called? The big they built them through like Motherhead. It reminded me of that, just massive. I see.
I'm trying to show my screen, but like it's freezing. There we go.
Yes,
that is Galactus.
Oh, okay. Is he a big
Celestial? I believe he. Well, I mean, okay. I believe in the comics he's either
planets or some shit.
Yes, he can.
I remember. Yeah.
Yes,
that's what I thought he was.
Galactus, the World Eater, basically. Well, here's what I was gonna say. Galactus himself is not a Celestial, but he's on a close enough level as far as power and scaling. However, the MCU, as we saw from last time in Shang-Chi, has been known to deviate, bad pun, from sometimes the comic sources. So who's to say that Galactus couldn't be a Celestial at this point?
It would make sense if they're going to include him as one of the main villains after Kang.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've already introduced the idea of the Celestials, and now we're getting like the background building for them. Like no matter what, every Marvel, we're doing the Marvel Roundtable, and we want to look at these as individual things. But
all intertwine one
they
way
can't. In the end, you look at the entirety.
I didn't say it was going to be possible or easy. I just said it was an attempt.
This one's a tough one because a lot of it doesn't seem. It might be better in the long run.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't seem complete. That's the big problem with it.
Yeah.
Even though it was almost 3 hours.
Oh yeah, that's the other big problem with it.
But what I will say is that like despite some of the nitpicking of the smaller stuff in terms of like the interfering with humans and blah blah blah, and the here's my master plan, Mr. Bond. I felt like the story was at least relatively easy enough to follow. Like, okay, this is like, yeah, plot points aside as far as the revelation of this, but as far as like okay, we're getting to this and this, parts dragged for me, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like the main story itself was, characters were tough to kind of sink my teeth into, but the overall story was not complex or complicated. It was relatively straightforward, at least to me anyway.
It wasn't complicated. It was, here's the team doesn't really break up, but then it's getting the team back together again. That's the whole.
You son of a bitch!
Part.
I'm in.
To be honest with you, it would have been very interesting to see the time spent apart.
Yes.
A lot more than
one of them. Yeah.
I agree. Now there is rumors.
I think what the fuck was going on with Drew? He's like, oh, in the Amazon.
Yep.
Which definitely wasn't the Amazon.
He's the leader of an entire village and raising that village exactly how he felt that the human race should have been raised.
That was like in the fucking a Canadian forest.
I literally was about to say the exact same fucking thing.
With a bunch of pilgrims.
Forest. But no.
Why are they dressed like pilgrims?
He's got their minds. Whatever the fuck he wants to do.
Amazon is hot as shit. They're all in like overalls and fucking.
Are those loonies and are those loonies and toonies on the picnic bench over there? That's a bag of milk. I know where this is.
The sheer amount of pump action shotguns in this movie. I don't know why there were so many fucking pump action shotguns. Every fucking part of his little society had a pump action. She falls down a cliff and there's a pump action shotgun right beside her.
Listen. It's like he had a live action version of The Sims and he just did whatever the fuck he wanted. Okay, like just let him.
Only one gun in this world, and it's pump action made to perfection.
Listen, you can't sit there and tell me that you didn't play The Sims at one point. Put a whole family or a couple of people in the house, got rid of all the doors and windows, and then set the thing on fire.
There was enough pump action shotguns for me to say. This movie has a lot of pump action shotguns. For some fucked up reason.
I shouldn't have had to say that.
It's like a movie about eternal beings that can create weapons. A lot of pump action shotguns.
They're eternally grateful. All right. Hoping to delay the emergence, they find Druig in an Amazon Canadian village, more like Amazon Prime, in hopes that he could be able to utilize his telepathy to render Tiamut the communicator dormant, but he is hesitant to help them. At night, they are ambushed by the Deviants and fight to fend them off. Icarus and Circe are viciously attacked by one of the beasts, but she uses her powers to transmute it into a tree, to everyone's surprise. As Thena begins to fall insane yet again, Gilgamesh rushes to her side. However, this allows the Deviant leader Crow to attack him and absorb his powers, gaining a humanoid figure, intelligible speech, and his memories. So there's a couple of things I actually like about that. Is that, number one, so much for being eternal. Number two, I also do like the idea that the Eternals are relatively divided, and it's not very clear-cut either on who's on what side. I mean, yeah, they're getting together to try to do certain things, but you can still sense the hesitation in some of them, and you know, again, character development in this movie sucks ass sometimes, but I do appreciate that, like, some of them are, like, kind of reluctant. They may not want to. There's still tension in some cases, which I do appreciate. I also like the fact that the Deviants absorb the powers of, when they, like, basically soul suck out the Eternals, that they get their powers. So, you know.
And it creates them, it turns them into a more sentient being as well.
And the one thing I will give the Eternals the credit is that
goes nowhere.
Well, the one thing I will say is that the Eternals having unique powers in and of themselves is, I like how they just said, like, it's like a beta test of X-Men, but it also makes it intriguing too, because not everybody has the same power, which means they all have different strengths and different weaknesses. And so some of them are your stereotypical super strength, super speed. Some of them finger bang, and others have, you know, like the telepathy and other stuff like that.
Planet, you're a tree, bitch. That's all I was thinking when that happened. Cheadle's Captain Planet.
You ever seen the Robot Chicken one where, like, it's fucking Ted Turner dressed up as Captain Planet? He's like, oh god, he's dressing up again, Captain Planet. But anyway, but no, I kind of dug that scene for that reason. And again, like we talked about before, Gilgamesh's, like, sacrifice to save Athena, who was extremely ungrateful at the time. That cold-hearted bitch.
Well, what she was going through, it made sense really for her to not give a shit. But then she does eventually realize it and comes back to her senses.
It's such like, in all honesty, if you're gonna get rid of a character, then the character they're gotten rid of for, I want to see a lot more from. And I'll give them some credit. They do try to do more with her. It just never lands for me. It's just, oh, it's gone now. So I guess I'm just kick-ass warrior again. With no... I don't care about the past. I don't care about anything anymore. I'm just kick-ass warrior. You want an orange fruit, little kid? Here you go. That and I had to laugh because I'm like, this is the Amazon, right? And then I saw what they did. They CGI'd in a couple trees that looked like they were from the Amazon, and then the entire background was like shot in Vancouver.
Oh, Canada!
You know what? Now I need to see where they shot the Eternals.
Oh man! Oh, I guess my wife. But I swear that like threw me off, and they had the cabins in the woods. I'm like, man, this is looking nothing like the Amazon. You can tell me it's the Amazon all you want, but holy shit! And okay, am I the only person that thought this? Why would you get the fucking Speedy Gonzalez? Why would you go after Speedy Gonzalez last, considering she could collect everybody the fastest?
Hmm.
Yeah, she was the hardest one to find, considering she was still on the ship and nobody knew.
How did they know where anybody was?
Well, Najib was the easiest to find. You just search Bollywood and bam!
Yeah, one guy for sure. The rest of them was just like, I've heard rumblings about this Amazon community of shotgun-wielding fucking hobos. That's him! Is it the Amazon? No, it's Vancouver. It's Amazon in Canada.
Actually, I think it was the Amazon.
It looks nothing like the Amazon.
All right, so hold on. It looks like majority of the filming took place in actually the UK. A couple locations in the US, a good chunk of it in Spain, mostly like the beach scene towards the end, but none of it was in good old Canada. Or
yeah, a lot of Canada
Amazon.
looks like the U.S. though, but that's wherever that was, that's probably where the Amazon scenes were, because log cabins and fucking pilgrims, like what the fuck?
That definitely screams like North Dakota, because that's right at the border there.
Aren't they supposed to be in Dakota at the end?
South Dakota, yeah.
Well,
you know,
it's only
where
a trip
where
down.
the forests are. Before fleeing, Crow pledges to kill the Eternals for their actions towards the Deviants. With his last words, Gilgamesh successfully gets Athena to remember who she is, curing her of the affliction. How convenient. The rest of the Eternals mourn the loss of their strongest fighter with a cremation, with Athena scattering his ashes in the river. This is the shit hits the fan moment. Druig proclaims that he is not powerful enough to affect the Celestial, so they head to Chicago to seek out Phastos, who had a long abandoned mankind and his technological ambitions after his technology was used to create the atomic bomb. Again, with what Basement said, the fucking scene was so fucking good.
I'm like, well, that would have been interesting to see a bit more of. And also the character, like he's second fiddle comedy. But the character is interesting. Like he downplays his comedy a lot, so it's not like
in your face,
quippy crap.
It's not like Najib, where it's just like, I am the funny man.
No, basically, he's very like quiet, almost quiet and subdued, almost. However, he has newfound hope for humanity after finding a new life with his husband Ben Stoss and his son Jack Stoss. He initially refuses to leave his family, but relents after Ben convinces him to fight for Jack's future. Which, yeah, that makes sense, because he was one of the ones in the flashbacks who was kind of like, fuck this and fuck, not helping people. But I do love going back to that scene, like, he was so adamant about helping humans, and then it like cuts to him like fucking helping with the atomic bomb. It's like, man... Why?
Mm-hmm.
Can we get more of like that good, like just like
they allude to it too with him trying to like fast track humanity with the steam engine, and they're like, nope, we got to go back to a plow or whatever, right? So like his, I guess his eagerness to like move people forward also causes a lot of pain. This is the next thing. They're 2,000 years of independence. You'd love to see like, especially him. He goes on, he finds a fucking lover, and they have a kid. You'd love to see. Over those 2,000 years, also being, I have a family, family dies. I have a family, family dies. Like, that is alone going to destroy you. mentally, and it's never touched on in this. It would have been so all the interesting things. Is like, I'll show you a second, and then we'll move on because we have to talk about deviants, and they're going to be useless in the end.
Yeah, of course. But that's where you have some of the more quieter character building, because you had Drulig and then you have this guy. He wants to technologically advance them to better their farming and their transportation and all of that. And then you have Drulig, who wants to advance their armies and make them better fighters. Mm-hmm. So you had the two opposite spectrums there with those two. So that's the team building there.
And that's what I was referring to earlier, was that like I like the fact that they are not all on the same page, even on the same side. They're doing things for different reasons, and it's like just a little bit more.
You gotta give them. I gotta give the directing and writing enough credit to be like, I don't know if you could have done this movie better. Because
they really tried, and
it was always going to be what it's going to be. Unfortunately, unless, like I said, if it was like a series and it was hour-long episodes and it was 10 episodes, 10 hours you can do a lot with. You can, I give each character an episode and then have the last 2 episodes be. Because how many of them? 8 of them or something?
10.
10 of them. Okay, well, the main 2, give them 1 episode together.
Right.
Which they've done throughout this whole movie. As they were split up, you still had at least 2 characters together for the most part.
You could pair up a couple of characters in 1 episode, and yeah.
The characters you want to have the most emotional weight, definitely give them an episode by themselves, especially the ones that you need to look into. He's one of them because so much goes on his in his life, and the guy that controls people is just interesting on a moral level to see how fucked up he could get.
Yeah.
And how fucked up people would look at him for being that way. Because that's like WandaVision.
Yeah.
But way worse.
Speaking of WandaVision, real quick, I'm not sure if you guys talked about this on the No Bucks Given this past week because of my allergies. But Mark Shirkman, who is the director of WandaVision, has been officially confirmed to be the director for the Fantastic Four MCU movie.
Doesn't really fill me with excitement.
No.
That show had terrible pacing, so the show is fine and it deals with some good problems, but like from a directing standpoint,
it took me 6 episodes to even enjoy a little bit of the show.
They did confirm that the director for Shang-Chi, like we talked last week, is going to be the director for Avengers Kang Dynasty, with the rumor, I believe his name is Ryan Coolidge, the director for the upcoming Black Panther movie, is...
He did the first one.
Mm-hmm. I think he did the first one.
Yeah, he did the first one.
He is poised to possibly be tapped to direct Secret Wars.
Okay.
Which... I have no problem with that. I'm not super amped by the Wanda director because maybe he's better at movies.
We'll see.
I would hope so, because he didn't do very well with the TV show.
The TV show, a lot goes into it more than directing. I mean, it's not terribly directed. It's the choices they made on like a writing, not like writing, but like pacing level, where you can only do so much as a director.
But back to this 4-hour movie. Heading to Iraq, they retrieve the Domo from an archaeological site and find Makare residing in the ship. As they all are imbued with infinite cosmic energy, Phastos proposes they channel their energy into Druig and form a unimind, uni meaning one and mind being mind, so that he can take control of the Celestial and stop the emergence. But not everyone is on board with the plan, with Icarus being the primary dissident. When Kingo pledges to remain alongside Icarus up until the end, he recalls his last encounter with Ajax 6 days prior. She informs Icarus that although the blip brought the emergence closer to reality, the heroics of the Avengers inspired her to doubt Arishems for the first time. But as he remains a firm believer in Arishem, Icarus takes Ajax to a town in Alaska where the deviants trapped in ice were resurfacing due to global warming associated with the emergence. He pushes her into the path of Crow, who absorbs her life force and gains her hyper-regenerative powers. Icarus then takes Ajax's bodies back home before breaking down over what he had done. So the final big reveal has happened where Icarus is the bastard behind all this that no one saw coming.
It was written on the wall, man.
I know.
The one good thing is, like, he's not really a bad character. He's like a good soldier, but a bad he's a good soldier, bad person. And he's unwavering. I mean, in some cases, he's fucking Captain America. Unwavering for the cause. If the cause is bad, then and he doesn't see it, whatever. But I liked us again. Another thing that this movie, like outside of the diversity, they bring in global warming, but they don't be like because of mankind's failures. Yes. The world is global. No, because we're about to fucking birth a monster that's been stealing energy from the planet. Like this is the type of thing where they allude to like this is how it should be done.
Yeah, they're alluding to the current issues in the situation, but not making it an agenda-driven point.
I mean, you have the guy that's the thing is he's a gay man, but he's not a man, and he's 7,000 years old. At some point in time, he probably got sick of vagina. So like, maybe he's just like it's just. It's not. It's not. Hey, have you seen it?
Have you seen it?
I know. He is an engineer, nuclear ass blaster. I had that earlier.
Anyway,
let me show this to you guys with my rings.
Can you imagine that the 10 rings are revealed to be Phastos's? Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Fingers crossed.
But they're on my arm. She's like,
one way to link this together.
That's why when Wu comes back, that's why they smelled. Cersei now senses the commencement of the emergence, prompting Phastos to send Makare to find Tiamat, who is at the volcanic island in the Indian Ocean. Druig deduces Icarus's role in Ajax's death, and Cersei learns that he was made aware of their true mission by Ajax centuries ago. Icarus argues that it is their duty as Eternals to protect the celestial cycle of life so that the universe may continue to exist. When Kingo threatens to attack Icarus, Sprite decides to leave with him. As he does not want to face Arishem but wishes not to fight his friends, Kingo also departs along with Karun. Gotta love Karun. Athena convinces Cersei to continue Ajax's mission as her successor and prevent the emergence from eliminating all of mankind. To facilitate the Unimind, Phastos takes Cersei's communication sphere and disassembles it to construct bracelets for the other Eternals to wear. So this goes back to the whole idea of he's not wrong, he's just doing what he was told to do. Again, good soldier boy up in the hey, watch me red.
It doesn't work for me when it's 7,000 years of that. As like I mean, there's not enough there. His character is very. I can't believe his character is 7,000 years old. Let me just say that with being like so black and white for that long and seeing so much of mankind turn against each other and everything like that. Like they were there for every fucking atrocity, and it's like, nope. I'm unwavering in everything all the time, constantly. I didn't really get that enough to be like, okay, I guess he's gonna throw all of his family away for some big robot. And it's like, I'll be okay if all I remember is you. You're not gonna remember her, you dumb shit. You're not gonna remember anything.
That's where this happens.
He's infuriating. The kid is infuriating because
he's acting like a spoiled brat.
This is the problem with this movie.
As to why she's acting like a spoiled brat.
As soon as we get the idea that they're 7,000 years old, and they act like teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
I just like, what's going on here with the whole we got to break up before we set things right at the very end of the movie. It's like, come on, man. In 7,000 years, you learned how to be 12. Cool. Isn't this mind-blowing entertainment? That like just enraged me at the very end of the movie. I was like, I kind of don't care anymore. I hope the fucking thing emerges and kills everybody.
Yeah. At some point, I was actually rooting for the Celestial. At the island, Cersei, Athena, and Makari lend their energy to Druig to allow him to connect with Titan, but Icarus blasts him into a hole and destroys the Domo, which is their ship. Determining that Cersei's matter transmutation powers are their last chance to stop the emergence, Makari, Athena, and Phastos confront Icarus to give her cover. Crow attacks the Eternals and nearly kills Makari, but Phastos knocks him into the cave where Athena follows him into. Sprite projects an illusion of Ajax to distract Cersei before stabbing her with a dagger. Ouch. As she is constantly mocked for her childlike stature, Sprite envies Cersei for being able to live a full life amongst humans, hoping that the emergence's aftermath would allow her to be reborn as a full-sized life form. Druig recovers and knocks Sprite out. I actually did laugh my ass off at that scene.
Thank God.
He is unable to utilize his powers against Titan again, forcing Cersei to face it alone as the Celestial begins to rise from the Earth's crust. So shit's hitting the fan, folks. Crow impersonates Gilgamesh in an attempt to take over Athena's mind, but she's able to resist him and kills the Deviant. I could have sworn this is where Athena was going to get killed. Phastos manages to restrain Icarus and prevent him from using his powers momentarily, but he eventually breaks free and flies away to stop Cersei. However, he is emotionally unable to bring himself to harm her. Remembering their time on Earth and the love they shared, he surrenders. Despite this, Cersei still doesn't have enough energy to kill Titan. However, suddenly something unites all the Eternals, including Icarus and Sprite, into the Unimind, attaining enough energy to allow Cersei to... I almost skipped a sentence, which would be fucking weird. Allow Cersei to transform Titan's body into marble. Guilt-ridden, Icarus...
That's what happens.
Yep.
I thought they just froze him.
I thought it was ice, too. Guilt-ridden, Icarus apologizes to Cersei before...
Flying away into the
before
sun.
fleeing Earth, flying directly into the sun. Phastos...
Fastest speed known to man. He got to the sun in 10 seconds. Holy fucking Christ. The fastest man alive. And we know that's not true from seeing him fly earlier.
Phastos deduces that it was Titan itself that initiated the Unimind. This was always the way for the Eternals to survive destructions of planets, but this time it resulted in the Celestial's death. Having retained some energy from the Unimind, Cersei fulfills Sprite's wishes and transmutes her into a human to allow her to grow up.
Like 50% of the words you said weren't words.
So,
like, and the Unimind goes to Ajax and the Doko and the Dika.
So, here's where I think this is just this whole thing's fucking plot convenience. I mean,
yeah,
they wake up the
Celestial. So to save their own lives so that their memories can be wiped, they can link up with the Titan that is being born.
Mm-hmm. Well, so according to what I understood from this was, this happens all the time, right? They cycle through Eternals, Deviants, and planets, and they bring about Celestials every time. They birth new Celestials.
So from what is plot convenience?
What?
The entire movie is plot convenience. I'm not gonna lie, it happens so often in this movie.
Fair. So when the Celestial is being born, it unites the Eternals together and creates a power enough for them to survive the planet's destruction so they can fucking do it all over again.
And get back to the World Forge and be reborn.
Yep. That is a little too convenient even for me in this movie.
That is where my brain hurts, because it's not until they all end up back on the beach that Mophis is the one who reveals that. That's why it worked. It's just,
I don't know.
What? What?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I didn't know. It's like, all right, you know what? I'm almost done with the movie.
The Deviant King also shows up he's the fastest swimmer in the world because they're flying around in Dogo or whatever the fuck the Dromo, whatever the gigantic Dorito they fly around in is.
Domo.
That's fast as shit. The thing is, like, this guy flies into the sun. You know how long he'd have to contemplate his own death?
And
it's just like, I decided to leave Earth. Oh, and the sun is right beside Earth. Like, what the... Like, the movie should have ended, the end credits should have went on, and it should have been like, sometime in 2035, he crashed into Earth, or into the sun. Like, that's, like, come on. It happened in 2 seconds.
Yep.
And he got beat by the speedster because she was fast.
All right.
Just want to say that the Celestial coming out of the ending is just a mess of convenience
let's talk about
CGI.
Let's talk about this last part here. So 2 weeks later, in good old South Dakota, Thena, Makari, and Druig depart for space on the Domo, which had been repaired by Phastos, in search for more Eternals, and tell them the truth. Back in London, Sprite bids goodbye to Cersei as she moves out with Kingo to attend school. Cersei is out on another date with Whitman, and when Arishem dramatically appears outside of Earth's orbit, in front of everybody, for sabotaging Titmut's emergence, he abducts Cersei, Phastos, and Kingo to evaluate their memories for final judgment of the humans, sparing them for now.
Why does he only get those 3? Where is all the other superheroes during this and during the fucking
he doesn't give
God coming out of the water?
Oh, well. So first off, who else is there?
Well, this is after Endgame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody.
Everybody.
Except for Black Widow.
Well, Iron Man's gone. Cap hasn't really the only person who
Where's Captain Marvel?
Off-world.
Of course, she's always fucking off-world.
However, I will say, you know what I will call shenanigans on is, like, there's one character who should have seen or interfered in something, or
Doctor Strange.
There we go. Mm-hmm. That's the one character that a lot of times it's like, because like, what's Falcon and Winter Soldier gonna do against a fucking Lego brick monster like Arishem? But that's the reason he's taking them.
He's already seen the movie with the time stone, and he didn't want to go back to see it again. So he's like, I'm staying out of this. I don't mind if somewhat emerges out of the ocean.
Can you
imagine? I don't mind
if
a gigantic red man shows up in space.
We know. So
you also skipped over the emergence of 2 characters.
The emergence of 2 characters.
I've got some emergence in my pants right now.
Are we talking about the end credit scene and post credit scene? I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
No. Before we go there, like, are you gonna talk about the red man, the big robot, and his decision to be like, "I'll be back"?
Yeah. Why does that not make sense?
Why does it make sense?
Because he's like, you guys stopped what was supposed to happen. Now I need to determine whether Earth should be saved or not, and I'm going to use your memories of Earth to make that decision.
And also, JP kind of alluded to Jon Snow, or Kit Harington, turning into the next bad guy, considering it was Cersei, his lover, who was kidnapped right in front of him by this giant creature.
Yeah, but like the idea that he's got to like show up, make this big show, fucking only take 3 of them, then dip out. It's
okay,
like,
hold on.
To take him like a long time to look at things. Didn't he already plan for Earth's destruction? Now he's got to be like, I didn't see what was happening with Earth.
3 of them are dead, first of all. If you want Icarus, go pick him out of the sun. Can you imagine?
Well, is the little girl just a person now?
Yes, she's human. So there's only 6 Eternals left in existence. 3 of them already left the planet. They're on the Domo. Thena, Makari, and Druig. They're already off-world.
Giant space being that can teleport.
Mm.
So he probably would have picked them up too, right?
And then, if he knew where they were.
I believe that he doesn't know where they are.
How he would have grabbed them if he knew where they were.
And so far, we don't know if he actually saw them and grabbed them.
Yeah,
so
we don't know enough about this gigantic teleporting robot.
We know that they ran into somebody else, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, it's assumed that he doesn't know where the other three are, so he only grabs the Eternals that he knows where they are.
Because they were
I'm so like that. Okay, the thing that pisses me off is he already had slated for Earth's destruction.
Uh-huh.
They thwarted Earth's destruction.
Yes.
So, in them thwarting and disobeying, he's like, "I'm going to take you with me." He says, "I'm not going to destroy Earth," and then I'm going to take you with me. He says, "I've halted the destruction of Earth," or whatever. Something along those lines.
Until final judgment of the humans.
So, why didn't he? Why is he doing that now, if not before?
Because there's never been a time. There's never been a time, as far as we know, that the Eternals have stopped an emergence before, and so he's like, well, maybe there's a reason why they felt compelled to do so.
Yeah.
They're either like...
They didn't really have a reason to pay attention that heavily to Earth.
Pretty cut and dry to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
He didn't have a will or a wherewithal knowledge to pay that much attention to Earth because the Eternals were there taking care of everything, so he thought everything was under control.
If he's this giant god being, my problem is I don't know anything about the extent of his powers. I have given, where I'm going is he knows fucking hell of a lot. He's got to know a hell of a lot. He's got to be omniscient almost. So he's gonna take these three people and do I'm gonna look through your memories. He's gonna suck them up and put them in his suck hole where the rest of the memories are.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what they allude to.
I hope he destroys planet Earth because I would.
What?
Hope he destroys planet Earth. Comes back and...
Hey, listen, Secret Wars, anything can fucking happen. In fact, Kang Dynasty, anything. Anyway. We'll talk about incursions when we get to Doctor Strange. The concept is that the Celestials send out Eternals and Deviants to clear a pathway for the emergence of a new Celestial to be born. To our knowledge, we don't know that this has ever been interrupted before. As far as we know, this always happens, right? So this is the first time that, as far as we know, that Arishem has been aware of that the Eternals that he sent to Earth, because there are more than just the 10 Eternals that we've seen. They've said that pretty cut and dry. That this is the first time that we know of where Eternals have refused to participate, to participate or follow commands. So in Arishem's mind, he's like, well, let me scan your memories and see what's going on here. Maybe this planet's worth saving after all. Maybe there's other reasons why we shouldn't be destroying it or not doing the emergence or whatever. That's what I got from it. And considering that he doesn't know where the other three that left Earth are, that we'll see in the mid-credit scene in a second, and Pip is no longer not Pip, what the fuck's the name? Sprite. Since Sprite's no longer an Eternal, she is now a human being. There's only 3 Eternals on Earth. So, yoink. Or he's assuming they're dead if they can't find them.
Mm-hmm.
No, it makes sense. Just, no.
That's what I got from it. And again, a chunk of this is based off of assumption, which is why the place in this whole movie, or in the MCU, is a very big head scratcher. But anyway,
I think it's the unknown power scaling of a character that is so unknown that to me is going to be like, if I get more information, then I could probably accept what's happening. It just seems like a very powerful being using a very rudimentary way to get things.
Think of the Celestials as the gods on Mount Olympus in Greek and Roman mythology.
Yeah, no, it's definitely clear that's what they're. going for, yeah.
Then I've done all I need to do. Mid-credit scene. Athena, Makare, and Druig are visited by the Eternal Eros and his assistant Pip the Troll, who offer their partnership to help him find Eternals. Of course, it should be noted that Eros is specifically noted to be the brother of Thanos.
Oh, brother of Thanos, that's right. Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Doesn't really fucking matter right now.
Is he a joke character?
No. But he is extremely flamboyant. He is like
Okay, that's why
Tyler Breeze. He's Tyler Breeze.
Yeah, I got the joke character vibe because first of all, how he looks and how he acts
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there has been rumors, and Patton Oswalt said straight out, like, "Oh, they've confirmed Eternals 2." They haven't confirmed Eternals 2. But this could tie into a couple of different things, as we mentioned before, as far as bigger picture of where it could fit into the MCU. Galactus could very easily happen, where if they send Galactus to be the World Eater to eat the planet, and there's your Fantastic Four villain, there's your tie-in there. Take your pick. The Eternals have been through any point in history, so you could use them as a backdrop for an excuse to interject whatever you want to do so. There's also been rumors that this is about how the mutant gene gets introduced in some case with like the Deviants, because in the comics, Celestials created planets, but they created Eternals, Deviants, and mutants. So there's a chance that might be the piggyback way for them to do that too. So take your fucking pick. But my personal opinion, the post-credit scene is a little more interesting. So we see Dane Whitman opening an old chest inherited from his ancestors that contains the legendary Ebony Blade. When an unseen person questions him on whether or not he thinks he is ready for it, which they have confirmed that voice is Blade.
I thought it was Samuel Jackson, to be honest.
I thought so too, but no, they confirmed later on that is indeed Mahershala. I can't remember his name is.
Mahershala Ali?
Yes, who is Blade. So what that referring to is that Dane Whitman is picking up the Ebony Blade, which would make him become the next Black Knight. And he's white. Anyway.
I mean, if that leads into, I guess, him being part of the Blade movie, I wouldn't be against that. That to me looks like a good pairing. I like Kit Harington and I like Mahershala Ali, so far so good. I don't know if he's a bad guy or a good guy, but I'm going to assume he's not good.
He kind of like
he seemed like a good character, like
it goes back and forth. It goes back and forth. It depends on who he's fighting.
Is like some sort of possession thing going on, or okay, that's what I figured.
Mm-hmm. Enchantress from DC.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
kinda,
That's what I kind of got with the blade being like focusing on his fingers and trying to get him to pick it up. So it's gonna be like a fight between him and the blade, him being good, the blade being evil. I'm assuming.
Something to those lines, I would imagine. Yes.
You mean the sword or the character?
Hey. I would agree with you though. I think the actual post credit or whatever the fuck you want to call it is more intriguing.
Indeed.
Because the other one just like, I don't know. This movie kind of reminds me at times of Shazam, just worse.
No, I get where you're coming from on that one. And that, ladies and germs, was The Eternals. A movie that our good friend, rest in peace, Bobbit, said was absolute trash, which I can't say it's trash, but I can certainly see why people wouldn't like this. I'm going to start off with Heather this time as we're going to wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on Eternals, and what would you give it a lovely rating out of 10?
It's like I said at the beginning of this. I enjoyed it for what it was. Yes, there's going to be things in this that are going to be nitpicked, and then there are things that are just outright should not have been in the movie. And of course, it should not have been almost 3 hours long. But
could have been 10.
I did enjoy it for what it was, plot holes and all, plot convenience and all. At the end of the day, again, saying this is part of the uptick of Phase 4, even though we're getting close to the end of Phase 4. I would stick this around 5.5 for a rating.
Sounds about fair. Basement.
I gotta.
All right,
okay.
good talk. But
The biggest problem with this movie is I was bored by this movie. I think that's like the cardinal sin it commits, because as entertainment, it shouldn't bore me. Other than that, like there's some great like establishing shots that they use, and that's the credit to the director. There's some great character moments, but every character moment is like heavily circumcised.
Yeah.
Story's kind of all over the place. I can follow it, but it's still all over the place. Pacing is weird. You get like there's a lot of like exposition and talking, and then there's like a very longer than needs to be action scene because the action is boring. For the most part in this movie, the acting is worse than it should be, and good when it at points, and better than it should be at points. So it's like all over the place, man. I'm probably gonna stick to, like, I gave Black Widow in the end. I think I gave it like a 5. This is more important to the development of the MCU. I can see it already than Black Widow is. I enjoyed watching Black Widow more than this, but this is a better. Just
there's more implications.
Cinematically, it's better.
Black Widow.
Grander.
Cinematically, it's better and grander, and it has more interesting ideas. So I will give this a 5.5.
I will actually go to the 6. And the reason I'll go to the 6 is because I think that with all the things that it had going against it, that even just announcing it, we knew were going to be tough. I couldn't have done this better. Shit. With given
Anybody really could.
Right, and so like I can't fault anyone specifically. Obviously, we're basing the movie off being a movie, but you know, you kill off 3 characters. It's a good start. But they did.
Care about any of them.
What's that?
I didn't care about any of them.
I mean, Gilgamesh is probably the only one I really cared about because
Yeah,
it just but
He had like 10 minutes of screen time.
Listen.
That's
All you need is 30 seconds of love is what I've been told to make myself feel better. But I think given what they had in terms of limitations, I think that they had. I wish there was more on obviously a lot of the characters, but I had favorites, and there was enough uniqueness to them that I could sort of get invested in them, but not like heavily invested to them. Like each of them had their own unique trait of personality. There were other aspects and concepts that I actually enjoyed, like the differentiation in powers, the fact that not all of them were on not only the same side when it came to certain topics, but they were on the same side for different reasons, which I thought was also so it's not like it's not black and white across the board. There is areas of gray with some of them, not all of them. I thought the story for the most part was pretty easy to follow. Like I mentioned before, it wasn't too complicated until you start to try to fucking think about certain aspects of it, but that's beside the point. But I think that this movie, I can very easily understand why people did not like this when it came out. I think it's starting to get more love now, that things have, time will do that to you. But it is definitely not the formulaic MCU movie that we have all known to grown, I don't want to say love, but got accustomed to. And that's both a positive and a negative to this movie, which is not going to be the last time, I'm sure. But I think it's kind of like The Dark World in the sense of like people shit on it. And I don't think they're really looking. There's more to enjoy with this film than I think people are giving it credit for.
Yeah,
It'd be better when the universe is built out a bit more.
That's true too. We are recording this towards the final stages of Phase 4, not knowing what the future of the Eternals holds at this point in time. So, you never know.
one thing that I did, like, because I finished this movie a couple hours before we did this, right? So I went, no, a couple hours to give it more. I looked online at some people, like what their pros and cons were of the movie, and I looked at a couple articles. But one that I really thought stood out was you'll go to watch this movie, and everybody that leaves the movie has an equal chance to come out saying this was their favorite character, and it will probably be different. Or somewhat different, you know what I mean? And that's something that they should be proud of after making this, because that is a very difficult thing to do without established characters and a cast as big as this is.
Yep.
And I mean, like we've talked about the characters, and I'll say it again: best and worst part of this movie.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. But that being said, folks, that is going to do it for the Eternals. Here on the Marvel Roundtable. I want to thank everybody for tuning in live here on the channel. Of course, listening on the playback on your favorite podcast platforms. Make sure you guys go check out all the other cool content we've released. Another episode of No Bucks Given in the can as well. One that I still need to personally recover from. And we got some other cool content coming at you this week, which we will not disclose. You'll have to subscribe and figure out what the hell we're going to have, because you never know what's going to happen on this channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you're notified every single time. I want to thank Heather and Basement, as always, for joining me on this perilous journey here on the Marvel Roundtable. Guys, any last minute things before we wrap it up?
Yes. Too long for a movie, not long enough for the content.
I did.
It's weird, but
it's a weird combination. But definitely, I agree with you. If they've gone with the series and it's 10 to 12 episodes to get everything out, would have been perfect.
Can't disagree with that one. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate it. Thanks to Heather and Basement for joining us here. When we come back on the Marvel Roundtable, we are going back to Disney Plus shows. This time we are going back to the street level. We are coming out from the stars and going back to the roots of where we see our favorite arrowed Avenger get together, as we see both the past with Clint Barton and the future with Kate Bishop as we explore Hawkeye.